I'm Margaret Ann Windsor. That's my real name. I have to use the name Peggy Ann Dempsey. I'm married to Childers. Um, I'm watching. I'm got a lot of YouTubes up, and I want to put this one up today because on Dr. Phil they're telling about the death of Natalie Wood. Oh, I'm shocked. As many people as I've told about what's happened to me and me writing a medical malpractice book in '76 and almost being killed April Fool Day of '80. I was writing the book, and it was about mind control murders, the Tesla files that were stolen, where you can cure an illness or create one, or you can program people to do anything they tell you, and that's a bunch of baloney. So you have to wonder about your doctors, your dentist, because the place they put chips in you, and that's what they're doing, remote control and programming you to go out and commit murder or have a heart attack or cancer, etc. So there's lists of all this, and here's Nancy Grace. You tell them, Nancy. She knows all about what I'm talking about. If she doesn't, something's bad wrong with her. And she actually, I'm bouncing around because this involves going back to the Wayne Williams and who was the district attorney in Atlanta during those times, and he was a real close friend of Nancy Grace. In fact, she talked about him a lot. He's deceased, and the wife. She just popped up here talking about they're accusing Bob Wagner of it, of her murder. I'm going to give you something like fingerprints, and God help that this is all told. Um, I hate to see Bob Wagner. I think he's a decent person. Uh, some of them were, and some of the people could care less about me. That when I've been talking about all this, especially about my kidnapping and learning about my kidnapping, and I want to throw this in. Um, I found out about it in 1983 when I was flown out about my kidnapping and who my dad and mom are. My dad's Edward VIII, who never married Wallace Simpson. He was married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, Madison, Wisconsin, and he was forced out with character assassination by the Illuminati. And who you might know out there is the Church of what? That program and everything. But this is involves programming and mind control. And also, if I'm scattered, I'm going to try to get this in. I don't have it written down. I do by memory. They're showing this on Dr. Phil. I think it was probably filmed. Dr. Phil filmed it or had this a year ago or so. But there's more to this. It's almost like when I'm telling about the patterns, it's almost like fingerprint. Um, when you're looking in fingerprints to prove it belongs to a certain person, there's 1, 2, 3 points of interest, or you get the drift. So it's similar to this. So I want to go back to Natalie Wood here. First of all, someone that I grew up with whose name's Philip. Bear with me if I'm telling you that everybody for free, and they get mad at me. Some people do, and some people don't. Some people are very nice, but that they can't follow me, or, well, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going from memory. Uh, it's like fingerprints. You get 1.2, 3, and anyway, let me start at this one. Natalie and Bob Wagner were divorced. She married a British citizen. He may have been a director. They were married, and they had a daughter named Courtney. Okay, Courtney's also the name of Philip that I grew up with, and Philip is, I'm not going to say anything else about Philip, but he was brought there, and that family where I was taken when I was kidnapped in '41 at age 2, I was taken there from my home in England, and Philip was put there when he looked to be about 2 months old. And it was 1944, and I was put there in '41. So he later became in law enforcement and all that, but they named him Philip. Then I found out about my kidnapping in '83 when I'm flown out to Larry Flint's. And one of the doctors that I wrote about in the medical malpractice book, unpublished because they almost killed me, April Fool Day of '80. But Philip was put there. He went into law enforcement, and I'm getting to this. It's timelines, involves timelines, and how it can come together. And you can prove these, but you got to get it into court first and get someone to jury that's going to listen. Not get bored or. Okay, Philip was put there. In 1944, I was put there in 41, Lina Dempsey's, and it was a pigsty. It was horrible in Moulton, Alabama. The Illuminati kidnapped me, and that involved John F. Kennedy and his father, Joe, who was appointed ambassador to England in 1936 till they kicked him out in 46. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds that control your banking. My own uncle, Illegal George, he was appointed, made the monarch when it's illegal. They took my father out illegally. He never married Wallace Simpson. It was a lie, character assassination. He was still married to my mom and alive, obviously, in October of 86. I don't know how he lived. My mother had money. She's sister to Georgia O'Keeffe, the artist. And people come back and say, well, why didn't they come and get you? Did they? I can't answer all the questions. On common sense tells you why they can't come and get me. My God, he was taken down. They've deleted my mom from history that she ever even married him. And if you Google today, you see all these ugly things that are lies, that he married Wallace and gave up the throne and all this, which is a lie. An imposter married Wallace. And that was in 1937, the same year the Illuminati made George, the illegal George VI. Now then, they've kidnapped me, and JFK was, and his father, but JFK actually helped in the kidnapping and bringing me over here to Cortland, Alabama, the Army base near Moulton. Now I want to get back to this. Philip was brought there. He looked to be about 2 months old when he was supposed to have been birthed and brought there. It looked like he was 2 years old. Anyway, I grew up with him, and they named him Philip. Of course, later when you start tying all this together, as in Philip Mountbatten married Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is a fake monarch. That's a fake monarchy. They're not legit. So now then, that's just one thing there. Okay, later he marries, and he has a daughter named Courtney, one of them. So this is getting to the points, like in a fingerprint, that ties it together. Okay, the other thing was the timeline when she died. I guess I'm talking loud. Somebody's making noise out there. Anyway, 1981 was after I'd almost been killed, April Fool Day of 80. And after I worked for the district attorney, Fred Simpson, as in Wallace Warfield Simpson, in Madison County, Alabama, Huntsville Space Center, Madison, Wisconsin's where my mother, Claudia Ruth O'Keeffe, was born. So you get into those aspects of it, but I'm going to get back to Natalie. Okay, she married a British gentleman, and they had a daughter named Courtney. Okay, now then, she was killed. She died in 81, I believe. Okay, she was trying to finish the movie Brainstorm, and that's about being able to feel other people's emotions or thought process. I'd have to go back and redo it, but I knew when it was done that it was mind control, just like I knew that Larry Flint's was mind control when he was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I was doing the book in Marietta, Georgia. I was living at Moonraker, and it was about mind control and programming, and you can program one like Robin Williams, and he played in Mort from Ork, and to appear to commit suicide when it's really murder by suicide. It's induced, for lack of a better word, or a good one. Now back to Natalie. She was playing in that, and the role she was playing there has something to do with all of it. But she died, she died before the movie finished, and they had to bring in somebody in the last scenes to play her part. Now, I'm trying to think. There's a lot of other things that go in there that gets into some other Oh, let's see, some other things that happened that night that right at the moment I can't pull up. I need to go back and look it up, the names involved. So right at the moment, that's all I'm going to put up. The thing is, I hate. There is some more too. Yeah, but I'm not going to try to put it up here. I've put all this stuff up, um, and I don't know. The media's not going to touch it because they're controlled by the Illuminati, just like President Trump said. Well, they're not going to tell anything about me or what I'm talking about because they're the ones that kidnapped me. So it would get into telling what they did to me and my sons, and that the fake monarchy is a member of the Illuminati that kidnapped me. So I'm going to leave it there. I don't know that the press ever is forced to tell the truth, or it can get into court. But anyway, Dr. Phil is Dr. Phil. Philip, so you see how you put certain things in a timeline together and it would prove itself. And you're going to say, well, you're babbling, lady. Well, walk in my shoes and try to give people information that they don't want to hear, and they're expecting me to make it crystal clear when I'm having a rough time, okay? Obviously. But one that I wanted to bring out was Timothy McVeigh, and he's dead. He was programmed, put on death row, and Scott Peterson's on death row, and they were programmed. So if somebody doesn't tell the truth about Scott Peterson, then he'll be put to death. So I thought perhaps people would like to know, like the Virginia Tech next door to me here. I'm in Roanoke, Salem. And the 33 shot there, and then the shooter was programmed to commit suicide by shooting himself. Now, you take a lot of the mass shootings, but you don't take the guns away. This involves mind control. And the doctor, I'll go back to that, Dr. Larry McDonald that I was writing about, that went down, he's a congressman, went down in the plane August 31st of 83, was supposed to be on the KAL that was shot down en route from Juneau, Alaska to Seoul, South Korea. Now, the kicker to that is former President Nixon was on that flight too, and he was taken off. I have been told, whether it's true or not, that Larry McDonald never went down on the plane. The press told that he did. Everybody did. There's 260 plus people that drowned, went down. Nobody was spared on that flight. And the KL pilot was a seasoned pilot, so he flew 10 miles into Russian airspace and they shot him down. So that's what enabled me to get in 1983, to get into a congressman I'd written about that was very important about the book MD, A License to Kill. So I'm flown out to Mr. Flint's, who I had been telling the guy that shot him in Lawrenceville, Georgia, was a programmed shooter. And Governor Wallace, Alabama, you get a long list, but then there's murder using hardtacks and all this. It's unlimited. It's just a murder weapon. And I guess now that I'm going to get off, I've said about all I can. And unless the whole thing is you have to tell the truth about mind control and what your government is really into. And I guess that's about it. Natalie Wood's dead, but I think everybody should know the truth about how she really died. It was mind control used in it. So I don't know if Bob. And by the way, there is another connection to the Bob Wagner himself. I don't know how she actually died. She drowned, I understand, but nobody murdered her. It was done with mind control. So whether Bob Wagner did something or Christopher Walken did something, pushed her overboard, I don't know. The thing I do know is there was no murder committed in it. Well, there was, but it was done through the programmers. That's the reason, like in the Vegas Paddock, the shooter, they said they autopsied his brain, which I thought you ought to autopsy a root canal or his body and find the chip that's in him that allowed him to be programmed to do all this. So I'm going to leave it there. It's involving mind control and it's mass because nobody has held anybody accountable for it. So anyway, my best to Bob Wagner, and because I think he's a nice man. And just like I like Natalie Wood, but you don't, because she died, you don't punish him for something he didn't do.